on those who attended the 7-day challenge, comeback challenge, where Tony talked about state, story, strategy. And that has brought a whole new awareness to me of that whole, of how state affects our story. And, there's a saying, what is it, Einstein, the same level of thinking that created the problem cannot resolve the problem. So like digging around in my story, trying to change my story can be very challenging. It's the same level of thinking, but to step back and change state, it's like we access a different story. We identify with the story according to our state. In realizing that, I found this great question. For me, figuring out, having a plan of what to do, working on processes, having goals and all that's great. Catching myself in the moment and making a change, that's my biggest challenge. But what I found is with the state, story, strategy thing is a great question to ask myself in those moments when I feel I'm off in some way. I'll ask myself, Russ, and it helps if I say it out loud. Russ, are you in a story right now, or are you in state? And usually it's a story, and it's not a good one. And so then I'm reminded, Mike, like you said, jumping back, doing some incantations, jumping up and down, focusing on something different, running a new, internal dialogue and shifting the state. And it's funny how selling access to a different story. So being able to catch that in the moment has been so vital. And I'm having a lot more success with that as well. And I wanted to mention something too on the success cycle. I love your version, Mike, of that, the feeling portion, how you added that in there. We often hear that the success cycle changes can you put up Tony's version of that? So we often hear that the change happens at belief, right? So like if you believe that if your potential is a 10, but you believe it's a 3, you're only going to draw on 3. You're going to take a 3 action, you're going to get 3 results, and then that's going to show your belief, and you're going to say, yeah, see, right, it's correct. So I always thought that it was that the belief was the only place that it could change, and really what I'm finding is that it can change at the action too. And I've been doing a lot more of that lately. Taking actions that I don't even necessarily believe in yet, or I'm not real sure I can do it, but I see other people doing it, and I take the action, and I'll be damned if the results don't show up, and it changes the belief. And so those two have really been, I think, my main primary focus the last month. And Scott, thank you for sharing that book. Another great book, you guys heard Atomic Habits, James Clear. Absolutely love it. Another shift for me, usually focusing on goal, where James talks about, being goal focused or process focused. And so like that quote that you put up, Mike, we can work on the process in small bits at a time, and eventually we're going to reach our goal, right? So yeah, that one there. And so that's been pretty significant shift for me lately, that I, continuing to grow and take on new perspectives. Health has been a big thing for me lately, bumping up my health. Scott, I'm really interested in the fasting thing. I'm coming up to 50, so right there just about. And and fasting itself kind of has like a renewal energy to it, so interested to hear a little bit more about that at some point as well. But for me, number one.
To piggyback off of what you just said about fasting, what's really interesting about that concept, it sounds so elementary, but I'm going to say it because when it landed for me, it really landed. Like my whole life, I heard breakfast, and I was just like, oh, breakfast, most important meal of the day. Breakfast is cereal, and breakfast is like eggs and pancakes or whatever, oatmeal. But I heard once, not too long ago, I'm talking probably within the last 12 months or so, someone said breakfast is break fast, right? It's just that's when you break your fast. It's so elementary, right? But for some reason, it just clicked with me at the right time in my life where it's that's when I break my fast. And how you break a fast is usually not with pancakes and cereal, and all the shit that I, used to eat for breakfast. So oftentimes if I find myself, eating a little late or, maybe my caloric intake was a little higher from the previous day, I just break that fast closer to like 12 or 1. Like I'll fast for, you could call it intermittent fasting. You could call it whatever the hell you want. You could label it, but it's just like giving my body a chance to reset. And I won't break that fast until I excrete, until I, let yesterday's stuff try to pass through the system, drink my water. I almost like earned the right to eat. It sounds weird, but like I have negotiations with myself. Like I won't eat until I work out. I won't watch TV until I read some pages from a book, or like I have these agreements with myself. And so I didn't just take the break fast concept with nutrition. It's almost like breaking fast for, distractions. It's like, all right, I won't go on Facebook until you fill in the blank, listen to a podcast or make sure that I hit my checklist for the day. So I for some reason, Russ, what you said just kind of triggered a point with fasting, and then this whole breakfast thing. I don't know, but I definitely appreciate that.
You know what I heard from Jocko Willink? I'm not sure if anybody knows who that is, but he said a thing. I actually just heard this today, that when you get a good workout in, you're not going to want to eat bad food right after it because you feel like you just wasted the workout. You almost want to eat something like eggs or something healthy that's going to fuel your body. And he says that Jocko has like these like small little it's almost like from his podcast, but he just takes like little clips and does them on Spotify. And I just was listening to that actually this morning, and he was like, get a workout in. And he's like, and then you'll realize that what you eat is not going to be something. And I think he even said kind of what you just said, like, you're not going to want to eat pancakes or a donut. You're going to want to eat eggs and bacon and something that fuels your body. So I think about that. It's kind of like what you're saying. It's like, and I've never really even thought about that. The word fast is in breakfast, right? But
that's what I'm saying. It's so elementary, but it's like
I'd never even thought of that until you just said that. That's funny. But yeah, think about that though. I guess it is when you break the fast, but it's like, that is also one of the first meals. I mean, it is the first meal of the day. And I think what you eat kind of almost determines how that day goes too, because you kind of, if you eat a bunch of junk food, right, when you wake up in the morning, and, I still love Chick-fil-A. I think we all do. But I think that if you eat something, and Chick-fil-A is sometimes healthy, but if you eat something a little healthier, right, when you start the day, whether then you eat something like a bunch of donuts or something, I feel like your mind knows what you just did, right? So I think that's another important thing.
Yeah, I think health is a mindset, really. If you think about it, you've heard the term health kick. And you get rolling in one way and you just want to do it, the way you eat, change in diet, physical fitness, the whole thing seems to go together a little bit. Makes sense.
Well, I appreciate that. That was a good thread. That was good. Anything else on that thread that anybody wanted to kind of chime in on?
Kind of along with that, two things that came out with the comeback challenge, but the state. So November was my first UPW, learning that. I was like, I've got it. So watching comeback challenge, I was like, wait, I forgot that part and that part. And that, like he says that he simplifies it so much that sometimes just sounds like you're not going to take it seriously. But one that's really come up a lot, and it's been a struggle for me for a long time, was the language. And I thought verbally going out, but it was more of like the language internally, self-talk. I said, I felt like crap, so I keep telling myself that. I caught myself in the last few days, and I was like, so like Russ was just saying, I just forced myself to say, no, I feel better. Or just to stop saying, I'm like, man, I feel like crap. And I just kept telling myself, well, I'm never going to get out of that state saying that. But it also showed up in something else. Lindsay, who's part of the group, she wasn't able to jump on tonight. She's caught me a couple of times with other area directors or roles, and I'm like, Tony tells his story of when he gets he's fascinated now. He's not frustrated, and that hit home so much in the last week. There's a few times I'm like, I'm so pissed off or I'm so frustrated. She's like, no, you're fascinated. And I was like, no, I'm pissed now. I'll change it next time, but this time I'm pissed. But changing that, just changing the internally. But it also went into one of a YouTube I watched him talk about the moving towards and moving away goals. I know that's not necessarily on the same thread we're saying right now, but it made me think of that. Was it puts into perspective. It's like a 30-minute YouTube. I mean, he does a lot of the same talks, but talking about what motivates you more, the moving towards and the moving away, the carrot or the stick that's chasing you. And you can say, I want to be rich, I want to be rich, I want to be rich. And then really it's, I just don't want to be broke. And that's how, I know Scott spoke up a couple times on there. That was the thing, just old habits bringing us back into those values, like self-sabotaging. And, but in that, he also mentioned having his core values and putting things above, the pyramid he starts with the health. And I'm so focused on like helping others, doing things for others, but it's been hard to work and keep kicking ass like I was at the beginning of COVID, not having the health. So it just put that more into perspective because you don't feel like doing things. It just, when your health is going down, it's tough to want to do things. So.
Yeah, it's awesome that you said about the towards values and the rules and the way values and rules. This is a poster that I have. It's actually right here in my next to my filing cabinet. But I have that I look at during my workout. I have this made. So after Date with Destiny, I had this made. It was a elementary poster, but I don't know if you need to read the whole thing or anything, but I have it right here on my filing cabinet right there. So I had it made, and it has this exactly what you're talking about, which is those towards values and away from values. And if I may, Casey, one of the things I corrected you one time before indirectly, but one of the things that even Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, and what you just said is if you keep saying what you've done in the past, like if you bring that into the present moment of this is how I am, you're identifying with it. So you're almost you're giving yourself permission to say, this is my identity by saying, I do this. I always do that, or I do that, or I got frustrated, or like whatever it might be. I would just use like past tense. Like in the past, I used to do this. In the past, I used to do this. I've done this in the past, but just by even saying that, you're empowering your future self, because Dr. Joe says, and I believe this to be the truth, that if you keep bringing the past into the present, you're always going to get what you always got. You're always going to feel the way you always felt. And then he also says, if you constantly are disconnected from the future, where it's like, I'm going towards this, like I want that, it's going to be great when I'm rich and I have that, you also have a disconnect that you're chasing after something that doesn't exist. So there's this very fine line when it comes to language of really identifying with that present moment, like right now. I used to do this, but right in this moment, I have enough awareness to say, I am fascinated by that. That is fascinating. And it's like, and the more you practice it, the more you say it, it becomes truth and you identify with it. Because think about it. If what we speak into existence is the truth, and then we believe that to be the truth, so then we take our belief and that makes us feel a certain way. And if we feel a certain way, we're going to identify with it. And if we identify it, we're going to think that's the truth. And if we think that's the truth, then we're going to bring more of that into our present moment. And we bring it into our present moment, and we're going to create different actions, which is going to create a different belief, it's just this cycle.
The power of changing I want to I will is powerful. Changing that word right there. I had to do that. I remember when I first created the vision board, I had a conversation with this girl I'm friends with, and she's a little bit older than me, and she was just talking to me, and I was just like, well, I want to do this. And she goes, Brad, change I want to I will do this. And when I made that shift in my mind to, instead of just saying, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, and that's really what you were just saying, Mike, but I want to do this, I want to do that, or to I will do this and I will do that. Because then you're committing, and your mind believes that you're committing to it. So, and I think that's what you're touching on there, is that your mind commits when you say I will instead of I want, or I was.
I am has been powerful. Powerful.
Yep.
I am has been super powerful too. And I own it. This is from last year, but just owning the I am statements, the power virtues specifically, and the fun, faith, love, courage. Owning some of that language and that I am statements, man, have been super powerful. And I have a whole list of those I am statements that I shared with you a couple sessions ago. But those have been really powerful. I believe it was Ray, if I'm not mistaken. Ray, you created a bunch of I am statements after that one session. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. Is that right?
I did. I was just going to tell her, I like hearing all the health stuff because I'm kind of a health freak myself. But when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I scored 164 pounds, super skinny. I didn't feel good about myself. When I started working out, started seeing results, and then when girls started noticing, like, okay, maybe I'm start doing this. And I'm 54 now, and it's just a habit for me. So it's a good habit to get into, which also translates into business. If you change your mindset, it's a habit, positive things will happen out of it. So I'm glad to hear people are getting into the health thing, because that's huge, especially as we're getting older.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And just to capture it, if you weren't a part of that one of those sessions, this is that spreadsheet that I created and shared, which is the goals and affirmations I look at every day. So these are my I am statements. I am living a life pleasing to my Creator. I am healthy, strong, and fit. I am a great husband. I am a great brother. And I just go through them each morning and just read those I am statements on the left. And then I have my my power virtues. And then I have my vision for the year. And then on the right side are my all-time goals, 30-day goals, my 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And every day I'm looking at these and reminding myself of these I am statements, these I am. And what's interesting enough is that, like, when I need it the most, it shows up. Like, I say it, but it's like I might say, I am living in our dream house. And at some points in time, I'm like, but then at other points, I'm like, I am, like, I really love this place, but like, it just lands differently, and it lands when it needs to land. So I love the I will. I think I will is great. I am has been life-changing for me.
I love the empowering vocabulary. Extremely powerful. And Mike, I think that goes with, you were talking about stepping into a specific identity. Empowering vocabulary, it goes right along with that. It's like owning it at a certain level,
Yeah.
Do
really
you guys
starting
know?
to pay attention to that too.
It's true, because when you identify with it, it's like, you hear Tony say, how do you know it's your dog? Right? He says that a lot. Like, how do you know it's your dog? You name it, right? It's like, you name it. That's how you know it's your dog. So it's like, there's identities, there's versions of me that I know are just wimpy. And I identify it with a label, and it's not my identity, but I give it a word, I give it a language. And you see Tony do this in all of his events, where he gives it an identity and says, that's disconnected from me. I'm not that version of me. That's wimpy. And I'm Mike. I'm here. Sometimes you give it Star, I think was one of the UPWs went to, or, it's like, you give it a new name, and then you take that name and you give it an identity. It's powerful. You could create a whole new version of you.
Tony was also talking about or you can go, Amber.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he was talking about.
Hey, what are you showing real fast? I want to see that. I'm sorry. Just to spotlight it.
Yeah, that's the affirmation thing. It's kind of like a positive sign. And I kind of put all my I ams inside of it.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do something different with it, but it's just a rough draft of it.
Very cool. Very cool. I remember. I thought it was you that you shared that. So I love that. I love that. Amber, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just saw you were showing that.
No, it's all good. So I wanted to add to how powerful the I am statement. So when I had told you guys a little bit earlier in May, I had terrible sales, and then June I had one of the best. And the real change there was focusing on my belief system and creating I am statements to create a new identity for who I was going to be at the end of June. So I focused on what was the result at the end of June that I wanted, but staying very focused on the beliefs. And to Russ's point, in regards to taking massive amounts of action, which will also produce the result, that's really what I focused on too, was just like the beliefs and then massive action, and then they would just continue to reinforce the beliefs. So I do think that the I am statements are clearly really powerful, and they absolutely work, and you feel different and you perform different, and it's really, really powerful stuff. And also I've been like writing notes as everybody was talking. The break fast thing is really funny, Mike. I've never thought of it that way. And I just started juicing last week, and that's just made a huge difference. So first thing in the morning, I actually bought a whole bunch of bottles to fill. So I'll just create the juice earlier in the week and then fill up a bunch of juice bottles. But it's just been awesome. I feel so much different and energized, almost like a natural high kind of.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome.
That's it's so funny. I almost didn't bring it up. Because I was like, I don't know, this is so elementary, and I felt like so lost when I heard it. But I'm glad it offered some value, because
Like the biggest breakthrough I got here. So no, I'm just kidding.
I've never heard that before.
break fast, right? What?
That's awesome.
So funny.
I wanted to mention, Tony talks about the archetypes. Do you guys know anything about that? He talks about finding the inner warrior, the inner magician, the inner, what was the other one? I have it. Hold on. I have it written down in here. The inner warrior, the inner magician. I know it's the inner king or queen. And Scott, do you know what the other one is?
Lover. The lover.
The lover. Yep, the lover.
Lover.
So it's the inner warrior, the inner magician, the inner lover, and the inner sovereign king or queen, right? Has anybody else heard Tony talk about this? You probably have, Russ, if you just know.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. It's been around for many years. Many people are talking about it in personal growth. It's just Tony's just kind of bringing it mainstream. There's actually a bunch of stuff online. You can actually take quizzes to determine what type you are. I guess then I can be able to grab that URL and put it up there for you.
Yeah, when Tony talked about that in the comeback challenge, I mean, I was going all in, right? I was playing full out the whole challenge, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, my warrior says, and I'm like, my neighbors are probably like, what is going on over there? I'm jumping around. I mean, he had Brian Bradley up there, and he's, you're getting all into state. You're like, shake your body out, and I'm going, yes, yeah, just do it. But that was one of the things, and he was like, he literally said, let out the sound, and I'm roaring like a lion, right? But I wrote down all the things, and I was just like, the warrior says, you deserve this. And I was like, the magician says, focus. And I just was doing all, and it was really cool. But, he only touched on that for a little bit, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I've never heard Tony talk about that before.
I think that originated with Dr. Young. Does that sound right? Anybody know? And there are like tons of different archetypes and different levels of them. I was actually working on something on that. Can I do a share screen real quick?
Yep, you got it.
Okay. You guys see it?
It's loaded. There you go.
I was like literally working on this before we did this, and kind of coming up with a little bit. And, like Scott said, Tony just basically goes over, and this is some of the stuff that he mentioned, but there's so much to it. I think there's a book out there, Magician, King, Magician, Lover, something, the other one. But yeah, it's cool. And really if you look at it, I think the sovereign and the warrior are masculine. The other are feminine. One is extrovert, the other introvert. There's so many different ways that it's characterized. But when it comes to identity, that's something else that that can be useful to identify with some of those if we need a balance in one of those areas.
It's kind of interesting because the way Tony kind of presented it is that we all have every single one of those inside of us. That it's not just one. And that's what he didn't go too deep into it. The comeback challenge was kind of like a big overview of a lot of things. But he kind of seemed like you have all of and that's why he might talk about it at UPW. I'm excited to, when we meet together, I'll do UPW virtual, and I'll be able to share some of my takeaways from that. And I really, it was just interesting because I know that Tony says a lot of the same things, and, but it's always different at the same time. You guys know what I mean? Like he says a lot of the same things, but it's different. You get a different – I looked at my old UPW book and the new one that I just got. It's the same one with a different cover, right? But I know that I'm going to have different breakthroughs that I didn't have 3 years ago that I'm going to have now. And that's what made me take action and go to it again. I was going to wait for Date with Destiny and just go to Date with Destiny. But I wanted to see what Tony's going to do this time. And doing it from home, and you guys saw the room that he's got set up. Mike said that's what our Zoom call is going to be.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, and I have a personal goal of mine to meet Tony Robbins. So that's a goal for me, is to be able to meet him and really just be able to learn from him. I have a friend that just had Dean Graziosi on her podcast, and she's going to email him tomorrow and introduce me to Dean Graziosi and get him on my podcast. And,
Nice.
I just feel like I can meet Tony, and I want to I'm trying to really get into as much content that he has as possible. And I feel like, it's funny because Tony said this, he was saying that when he went to a Jim Rohn seminar when he was younger, he could literally finish Jim Rohn's sentences. And I saw myself doing that during the comeback challenge. While I'm sitting there, I'm seeing what Tony's saying, and I'm like, I'm saying what he's saying. It's funny though. And I want to see what you guys think about this. Tony's big on getting rid of limiting beliefs, right? And that's something that I'm really big on too. That was the first podcast I ever made, was why you should never limit your beliefs. And I know that Tony goes over that. It's a big part of UPW. I really don't feel like I have limiting beliefs at all anymore. I think that and I know that's crazy, but I don't think it's crazy because I really have gotten rid of my limiting beliefs, and I know he's going to have us write that down. What do you guys think about that?
Would you like us to share your limiting beliefs with you? We could.
Yeah, I was taking notes too.
We've all been listening to you. I'm sure we all picked up on at least one of them. So,
really? What do you think it would be?
But we all have limiting beliefs, Brad. So that's if we didn't have limiting beliefs, we would all have 6-pack abs and $1 million in the bank account and relationship of our dreams, right? There's always something going on. There's probably stuff, could be stuff around relationships, could be stuff around health, could be stuff around being able to be with the right woman, could be stuff around being the best son you can be too. There's probably stuff that are probably deeper you haven't discovered yet.
There's a quote by Carl Jung. I'm not sure I could say it exactly. Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. And so we have much of that stuff that's ruling us, that's conducting our life, we're not even aware of. So we usually won't think we have a self-limiting belief.
The ego doesn't think so.
Yeah, the ego doesn't think so. Yep. And so, it's a good idea to explore that possibly.
Yeah. It's you don't know what you don't know. So you're it's an interesting question. It's an interesting topic, but you don't know what you don't know. So I love that you're curious and asking the question, which is a great pre-frame. I think the pre-frame is I'm very curious of what they are, to potentially replace I don't think I have them. It's, I would very much be curious, because the more you could peel back those layers and get into that unconscious and get deep rooted into those fears and get deep rooted into, some of those uncertainties, the things that maybe from when you were a kid, they're there. And when you can get curious of what those might be, you could peel back some of those layers. That's my first initial thought. my follow-up thought is for a good portion of my 20s, I'm 35, I just turned 35 a couple weeks ago, and a good portion of my 20s, probably around when I was training you in Cutco, I was very much being able to finish Tony's sentences as well. I would be at a meeting and be like, oh, well, Tony says this, you know? And until recently, I've been able to adopt these principles and adopt these philosophies and not make them my own, but like that diagram, interpret them from my lens and distribute them from my lens, just like Tony has done with the content that was around before him. She takes his interpretation of the content, distributes it, and then people say, oh, well, Tony says this. Well, realistically, kind of like Scott said, well, that's been around well before Tony. He just made it mainstream. So a potential blind spot, possibly, my hallucination is that you can take this content as you're doing it, interpret it, create your own, the way that you want to teach it, and express that from Brad's lens, not, I read this from so-and-so. I read this from so-and-so. This is what they say. This is what they say. Great. Well, maybe I should listen to them. Versus, I learned this from so-and-so. This is how I interpret it. And this is how I want to share this with you. And who knows? Who knows what would show up from that space? But that just to kind of give that back to you.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think I'm already doing a lot of that too, because I am with my podcast. A lot of times I'll be like, I learned that. It's funny that you say that because I like to do that. Some people say just to learn from a couple people. I don't think that. I learn from a bunch of different people. I model a bunch of different people and have my own perspective on it. I have a whole podcast about that. I one day I'll be listening to Tony Robbins, then I'll listen to Grant, then I'll listen to Brad Lee. I always am learning, and I'm always, putting my own perspective on it. But that is a question that I really have. And it's crazy because like the biggest breakthrough I had at Unleash the Power Within in 2017 was getting rid of my limiting beliefs. I had a limiting belief that I was too young. I wasn't smart enough. And I got rid of those. I used being young as fuel. I used, I was smart in a lot of areas of my life, right? I focused on what I was good at. And I got rid of all these limiting beliefs that I had when I was younger. And it's hard because I don't feel like there's any limiting beliefs there. There could be, but
let's replace limiting belief for just a moment with blind spot. Just to change the language, because your language of limiting belief is starting to lose meaning. You've said it so many times that it's lost meaning for you, where it's like, yeah, I don't have these anymore, because you're associating that word, that language with something that you feel like you've already conquered. So I would just replace the language. Call it something different. Call it a blind spot. Yeah. Like you have a booger hanging from your nose and you can't see it, but everyone else is seeing it. So I would think about that question. What is the red dot on your forehead that you can't see that everybody else sees? What's that blind spot for me? And stop calling it a limiting belief and start calling it a blind spot. Maybe you just change the language, and if you lead with curiosity, you'd be surprised on how much might show up for you. What's the booger hanging out of your nose?
That's great advice, man. I think that's what I'm glad that
I just asked you a question.
That's the thing though, is I don't know what my blind spot is, right? But I'm curious to know if there is a blind spot of something, because I'm always open.
The boogers that are hanging out of your nose, we could tell you if you want.
Yeah, is there?
but it's not going to be helpful. But it's not going to be helpful if we could, and it's a safe space. But I don't know if this is necessarily the group for that. We could all call each other out and say, hey, you have these boogers and you have these boogers, you have these blind spots. But I mean, I don't know if this is the space for that where we point those things out. But I would love for you to try to draw them out for yourself, because then it's going to be even more powerful. And that's where you can get a coach and, a mentor. You hire someone to point out all your blind spots, and then you say, all right, let's bring those blind spots into the arena. I would write this down: Johari's window, and just check that out and see what shows up, where you can bring your blind spots into the arena, where it's like, all right, it's fair game, and you're open to it. And then you have the mask, the facade. You know, we project this one version of us and everyone else sees this, but on the inside game, we're like, actually, you know, I really have these insecurities. The blind spot, everyone else sees the shit, but you are like so blind to it, you can't see it. And then the arena is like, all right, fully exposed. Let's see where we're at. And then there's the unknown potential. And the unknown potential is kind of like what we said. It's like, you don't even know what it is right now. It's the unknown. But, so just a really great concept to think about.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, man. I wrote down Jahari's window.
Yeah, you could Google it.
All right. Yeah, that's good stuff. I thought that would be something good to bring up because, you know, I was going through a little bit of the two workbooks and I'm like, you know, I just, that was something I really thought about, you know, that I was just kind of just thinking about. I'm like, you know, they could like, what am I going to like, cause you know, I know that Tony's going to go deep into it. And honestly, I kind of wanted him to call on me. Like, I know that's, you know, that'd be really crazy if he did. Right. But I think that I believe that, like, I really believe that I'm going to meet him. Like, I really, like, I vision that. Like,
I hugged him once. So I'll tell you what the feeling is like. All right. So I hugged him once. If you know, it feels like hugging another human being with really large hands. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things.
Man, he's a man. He's a man. He is flesh like you and me, and he has been through a lot in his life, and he has unbelievable teachings. And you know, even if you meet him, there's going to be questions that you might unveil, and you're still going to be Brad DeMitt. And you're still going to be where you are right now. And you're still going to be a great human being. And you're still going to serve your purpose with meeting him or without meeting him. So I think getting beyond meeting him and getting beyond what that would offer us, you know, like there's this separation. There's this separation there. And I would encourage you, what could you do to close that gap? What could you do to close the gap to almost say, you know what, there's no, now, Greg, don't get me wrong, there's a fangirl in me too. You know, it's like, oh my God, it's Tony. You know, it's like, I'm going in his line, you know, like when we did the fire walk, you know, it's like, I really learn a lot from you. You know, it's like, I feel you know, there was definitely that piece of me that's, you know, it's almost like the fangirl. And I'm saying it confidently now, just because I feel that it almost like compelled to learn, you know, share that wisdom from me. It's like that energy didn't serve me to say, I need to meet him in order to become more worthy of you fill in the blank.
Well, and it's funny,
even if
though,
you got a conversation with him where exposed all your bullshit, what is that going to do?
well, I even think, you know, it's kind of funny because, like, you know, I really see myself as like, you know, I'm Brad DeMint, and I see myself like being on stage like Tony and doing events like that, but doing my own way of things, right? And I like really want to be on stage with him one day, and it's just like it's one of those things, right? I see like how he learned from Jim Rohn, and I've learned a lot from him, and I'm still young. I'm always learning. So I think that's why that's one of my goals. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's one of those things though that, like, I know what you mean. I know that I'll always still be Brad DeMint. You know, I love myself a lot. I know that was like a funny thing that I said at the meeting when we were all together in person. We're like, what's the biggest takeaway from the Tony Robbins event? I was like, I loved myself more, you know, and like, you know, I'm very confident, and I'm not, you know, I'm not too cocky. I'm really humble too. That's why I would say confident, not cocky, right? But I really know that I'm going to do great things. And like, I really, you know, see myself like when I'm priming in the morning, I visualize my goals as being done. I see myself up there on stage, people telling me that I've inspired them, you know, and things like that. So it's just, I know what you mean. It's funny that you just said that, the thing where you're like, when you met Tony, you're
but what's nice is we're recording this, and then, you know, in 5 years from now, you get a chance to watch it and just see what shows up, man, and just see what happens and see what comes out of it. I mean, we're all on this journey. We're all learning. I love that we have, you know, young 20s to mid 50s on here. So Casey, Amber, Andrew, showing up. What's happened? We got about 7 minutes.
Something with the young thing, because I went a very similar path to Brad, going through Cutco, and there's a point where it's untouchable, and and limiting belief of being too young, because my first interview post-Cutco was with a guy that was over twice my age. He was my dad's age. He was a friend of my dad. We found out on the way to the interview. But one day you're going to wake up and you're not too young. Or if it was a weakness, it's no longer a weakness, but also it's a strength of yours now. And one day it's no longer a strength. So attaching everything to I'm young, that it's not that it's a limiting belief, but you're either too young or you're too old. I've never met somebody that said, I'm just the perfect age for this.
I know. So true.
And it's funny because, the older I get, the less I know. The less I understand, the more I learn. And it's just reframing for me was the self-talk of it, because I was too young. And then all of a sudden, I don't know when it happened. I'm still only 34. I'm still young. Depending on who you talk to, it's all perspective. But man, my body feels
You're
old.
34. You're an old bitch, man.
That's what I'm saying. I can't even go play ball.
I remember you when you were 18. What the hell?
Yeah, similar hairstyle, right?
You were 19 then, Mike.
I was.
The old USF house.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Andrew, I haven't heard from you in like an hour.
I honestly am zonked. I have had quite a week getting this house. So I'm just like taking it all in. And I really do feel like the more I hear all of this, the more it's seeping into me. So I am very thankful for all of you to just keep because
what's shown up? Anything land with you that you just from you observing, for us talking so much, and when I say us, it's more like me and Brad, but it's like it's probably like a 6, maybe like a 40-40, split. But what showed up? What were your observations from tonight that you're like, I just kind of taking all this as we're all just kind of vomiting just information, just catching up and whatnot. I'm curious.
First of all, I just want to even know if Brad can drink yet. This is what I want. One thing I want to know. I mean, did he turn 21 yet? I mean, it seems like he's been 20 forever.
I'm 20. I'm not 21 yet. I was 19 when I first met you guys. Well, not Mike. I was 17 when I met Mike, but yeah, I'm still 20. I'm almost 21. Wait till February.
So we got that answered. But Andrew, what showed up? Come on. I'm curious. I really want to hear from you. You have so much wisdom, and you're just observing all of this.
Did I know you guys were doing a podcast? I mean,
she's
got a podcast thing now she's doing that she's really doing well on.
Well, I took over a meetup group. My friend and I took over a real estate meetup group. So we've been, having meetings every couple weeks and sharing our real estate wisdom with newbies.
Why?
Nice. Congratulations.
Why are you humble about that? Like, why are you, I could feel the humility of like, yeah, it's just like, I just took over this meetup group and just talking. But there's other times where some people want to really talk about, how awesome their stuff is and how they're doing it. Why you be humble about that?
I don't know. I feel like the girl I'm doing it with has, she's done so much more. I feel like she's kind of pulling me along, which is lovely. And I so appreciate it. But then it is very awesome that people are on our group. One guy asked us to go to lunch. I just want to be with you guys. I just want to suck the knowledge from your head. I'm like, what? Somebody wants to suck knowledge from my head, but I've only done 5 houses. He's done 0. So I do have knowledge.
I'm like super excited and proud and very proud
true.
of her. And I'm like super excited. I'm like, why aren't you like just jumping up and down for joy? Because it's really cool what she's doing. I told her, I said, you're such a good real estate investor and a mentor to some people. You don't even know it. You don't even know it yet. So,
right.
yeah,
wow. That's beautiful. I love what you just said, Ray. What a great
he's such a good husband. He has a great
That's
I don't know.
really,
Probably this is probably why I'm so humble, because I have made $0 yet. In 5 flips, I have yet to make money. And it kills me. Because, before I was a teacher and I didn't make a lot of money, but we had enough money to go on trips and we had enough money to do those things. And now I'm like, Jesus, I'm spending money like crazy on trainings and all this stuff. And that's probably what it is. I don't feel like, Jesus, do I even know what I'm doing? Because I haven't made any money. So.
Well, like Tony said, you make mistakes, right? I mean, you got to make mistakes. You got to learn from your mistakes. And
well, here's just to give this to you, Andrea, and you could take it for whatever it is. You haven't made the money yet, but sometimes you're going to see exponential growth in the industry that you're in, where it's like, maybe it plateaus when you're, starting out, but all the lessons you learned during that plateau creates the exponential growth later. So just because you haven't received the dollars today doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to receive those dollars in date X. I think you believe that to be the truth.
I do believe that. It's just, it's hard to stick through, especially these days when it's this last couple of weeks when it's been like $2,000, $2,000, everybody wants my $2,000 is. And I'm like, oh God, I am out of $2,000 is. Like I I'm tired of stealing from him. I was like, all right, I'll steal from you for a minute. I hate it. But I do know that the lesson I am getting, I'm like, oh, not doing that again. Oh, not doing that again. And that's kind of what the people on the meetup group are like. They want to hear, I'm to share. Listen, you're getting a permit, blah, 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 whatever it is. And I don't realize that does add value to that, because now, look, I just let them skip 5 steps by not sharing my screw up. And I probably feel like that's adding value to people, but I need to feel like I'm adding value to people. So that's it. That's all
I knew I wanted to call on you for a reason. So
yeah, thanks.
There's so much wisdom there. I mean, what you said, a few great things came from that dialogue. Number one, we see how awesome, what an awesome husband looks like. So that was good.
Yeah,
we got a chance to see that. And what we also got a chance to see from that dialogue is the power of humility. We also got a chance to see that just because we're not getting the outcomes just yet doesn't necessarily mean we're not worthy to share our wisdom with other people. We also got a chance to see really what humility, how to demonstrate that, because it's such a powerful, especially in the entrepreneurial space, where so many of us want to be in the spotlight and we want to be on that stage, or we want to, have a chance. It's like, no, like I'll lead, but like, I don't need to have, I don't need everyone to know why I'm doing and what I'm doing and how well I'm doing. Like, I absolutely love that. There's so many great, valuable gifts that you just shared just in that little exchange. So I'm glad that you decided to speak. So thank you for that. Well,
awesome.
I just want to say it's honor everybody's time. It's been 90 minutes, believe it or not, crazy. I have no problem if we stay on the space, but it's time. And I'll kind of start just kind of closing ceremonies, just kind of wrapping up, and we get around our lives, and you guys just still hang out and talk or whatever. Use the Zoom, but I think that we have a great platform with the 2mm Club that really Russ kind of kicked off with Casey, and I was just like kind of a guest that Casey invited, and I'm like, all right, let's like kind of get this thing going, and it's been cool to add people to the group. My closing ceremonies are like, what's next? What do we do next? I know Scott has some really great ideas. Russ has some great ideas. Casey has some great ideas. And how do we take these great ideas and put them into action? Because I don't have that many great ideas. I'm more of the action guy, which is improving. That's why we're here right now. But I'd like to see what we could do. I saw Forbes Riley is in our group. I met her a few times, and I know she has a pretty awesome presence and platform. And she is, she's a power woman here in the Tampa Bay area. And I've seen her speak a few times. I met her a couple of times. I wouldn't say I just know of her and I know her platform, but how could we connect like some of these people with these other great thought leaders in the Tampa Bay area and use this 2mm Club as an opportunity to do so? And I mean, we have over 100 people in our group with, about a dozen tonight. So I just wanted to, before we end the session, just see what comes up and what we can do to create more attendance, if there's some ideas there.
I think Consistency. Consistency is huge. I mean, maybe even planning out more than just a month. If we can get something like putting a poll up there to have a consistent, not everybody's going to make every second Thursday. But that's what's tough with some people. It's last minute, things come up. But yeah, Forbes was in the comeback challenge, and we started messaging back and forth, and I just started adding people that were on that or in Tampa area to grow it. There's a lot more out there that we don't even know. So I think the consistency and the more involvement, whether it be on the Facebook page individually, things like that. Brad and I have been texting, just different things like that. It's going to draw more people.
Even engagement. How do we create more engagement? Like Andrea or Amber posted something really powerful with the Untethered Soul, and we got 25 people to see it, and one liked it and 2 commented or something. Like creating more engagement, creating more following, creating more. The events are good, but that's not necessarily what drives traffic to the events. What drives traffic to the events is creating more engagement in the group, and when there's more engagement in the group, then I think we'll be able to drive more traffic to the events.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's bump up group activity a little bit. More posts. And then can we do this like once every 2 weeks? Same night, same time? Is everybody up for that?
I'm flexible. I mean, I could make that work. I don't know what everyone else is, but
Thursdays are good days.
7:30 to 9 if you guys want to keep it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's hard with COVID. I think it'll be when we're in person. I think that'll,
Oh, yeah.
work them out.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your thoughts about that one woman? I don't remember who it was.
Adrian.
Was it?
Adrian.
Yeah, about the live meetup in a park or something like that.
I like the idea. Yeah, I mean, she lives on Davis Island too, so even just not that we have to meet up there, but just meeting up, and she was suggesting bringing chairs and sitting, kind of far apart, or even Armature Works. I know Andrea and I had met up there. I don't know if people are comfortable doing that. I mean, it's outside.
Yeah.
I know most of you are in Tampa, but the pier just reopened up, They have really awesome outdoor stuff there too. I don't know if anybody's seen it yet, but it looks amazing.
Oh yeah, I saw when they were building it. We actually got married right at that museum over there. Do you want to pencil it in for July 23rd, that Thursday night, for the next one? And do we want to do another one 2 weeks after that? Which
sounds good to me.
That'll be great. That's right after virtual UPW too. So I finished that on the 19th. So I am sure there's going to be some things that I learned from that.
Can't wait to hear about your limiting beliefs.
Yeah, well, that's such an interesting topic. I don't know. It's just crazy because
Blind spot.
I'm going to call it a blind spot. I'm going to see if there's any blind spots, because I personally feel like there's not blind spots, but there might be that other people see that I don't see.
Yes, stick your fingers in your nose.
Yeah. So why don't we do this July 23rd, and then we'll do August 6th. I'll create the events. We'll put those 2 nights in, Thursday night, same time. And then, we'll see what type of topics we could bring to the surface, and, even if it's just kind of casual conversation, and, we'll go from there. I think there's value. I don't think we need a large group. I think there's value that comes from these conversations, regardless of the size of the group, but different perspectives, different networking.
Others do a good job, the founding mothers and fathers.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of people that are in St. Pete and Tampa that are in this group too. I know that me and Casey have been trying to connect with as many people as possible. I've been connecting with all kinds of people all over the world that are Tony Robbins people, but I thought this group was kind of just Tampa. I know Scott's an exception because he comes to Tampa sometimes, but I didn't want to just invite a bunch of people from that into this. I kind of wanted to keep it St. Pete, Tampa. I think that's what we were kind of trying to do, right? Because we could do meetups in person.
I'll stop.
Yes.